Hey YouTubers, Nicholas Medovich with Strasbourg 1991 Productions here again. I got another part 2 of the book haul and book review for my new series of traveling and tourism by railroads. This is another book from East Broad Top, and this is actually called East Broad Top, A Personal Photographic Study by John Van Horn. This is actually extreme illustration of the East Broad Top narrow gauge main lines in central Pennsylvania, actually south central Pennsylvania, actually I should say. This is with locomotives 18 built by Baldwin in 1920 and 16 built in 1916 respectively. The locomotives also feature number 12 built in 1911, 14 1912, 15 in 1914, and number 17 built in 1918, all built by Baldwin Locomotive Works. And all the locomotives are 36-inch narrow gauge and have 48-inch diameter driving wheels. The running gear dimensions on the first three and the last three are completely different. One is southern valve gear, 16, 17, and 18, and 12, 14, and 15 have indirect wall shirts, which you have the crank working from the outside to the inside rather than inside to the outside. Again, locomotives like Tennessee Valley 610 and Army Consolidation, Canadian National 460s like the 1392 and 1551, and Sioux Line Mikados like 1003 all had that style of wall shirts valve gear. The U.S. Army was also known most of the time for the indirect wall shirts valve gear as well. Going back into the book, this is pretty much an incredible illustration. As you can see, these are the steam locomotives that, this is number 15. This is basically illustration of the railroad after the last run in 2011 because the finances were going down under. And it also features the Carowinds open air cars, which are former open air cars that were built on flat cars from the Denver and Rio Grande Western narrow gauge, standard gauge, I should say, with narrow gauge trucks, and they are not allowed. They can't be certified as of right now. Defects are a mess. The plan is actually, one of the plans was to actually trade them to somewhere else, or actually for once trade the Ogwick car, which was a inconsistent rebuild of exactly the same set of circumstances. Trade that for coach number 5, which is at the Tweetsy Road up in Blowing Rock, North Carolina. The Carowinds cars could actually be good, in my opinion, for the Heston Steam Museum, which they actually have exactly one of those same cars that was used in the 90s for the I Love Toy Trains Volume 6 by Jeffrey McComas Productions. On the back, you'll see East Broad Top locomotive number 12, which is the first of them, first of the Mikados, built in 1911. It last ran in October of 2000, 17 end of 2001. They have not steamed up ever since, and the plan is to get the 16, and then the 15, and then the 14, and then the 18, 17, and 12 in that restoration collection order, for that matter. I actually found some interesting footages. Some of the like the boiler house, and some of the architectural sawmills that are actually featured in this illustration. I give this is beyond a 10 out of 10 ranking, in my opinion. I would have to say one of the best portions would have to be the roundhouse area, and the illustration, it tells you there's the Armstrong turntable because it's operated by hand, not by mechanical electrical device. And here's the roundhouse. They actually used one of the stalls, I think it's one of the stalls in here, they actually used it to make the restoration shop for the locomotives as well. So there's going to be a lot of switching in the roundhouse. But usually there's like 16 locomotives in the shops, and the M1 motor car, which is built in 1923 by J.G. Brill, actually it was built by the J.G. Brill Company, actually made a few motor cars in the 1920s, pre-Great Depression era. But one of my favorite books, one of my favorite pictures in this, actually is not only the Mount Union area in Allenport, which were Mount Union was actually the northern terminus. They actually used to go up to Lucy's Furnace for the yard goat shuttle traffic for the 2060 standard gauge locomotives, but they cut that line down, I think, in 1951 or so, and Mount Union's been the terminus ever since. But ever since then, everything has been completely changed over the last 65 years. Again, shows you the standpipe, and it also shows you, interestingly enough, the standard gauge cars that are actually being shunted over to Norfolk Southern, which they actually share trackage rights with Norfolk Southern. It mentioned in an earlier video that they cannot legally operate to Mount Union unless they have positive train control in that area. There's also locomotives being restored and collections of passenger equipment, freight cars, and miscellaneous and maintenance of way. So, I can't get really into that, but it'll show you exactly the footage. This is the 2016 Volume 2, Issue 3 edition. I would definitely recommend this to any rail fan who has a hunch for locomotives, and for anybody who sees East Broad Top as an actual railroad and nothing else. You can actually see them. I think this is Hugo Lockman. It actually shows you some crew members. I think Hugo Lockman is one of the crew members in one of these photographs on the East Broad Top Road. He worked with Strasburg and Steamtown. He passed away. I think he was around 89 or so when he passed away. But he actually was known as one of the veterans for East Broad Top. It's one of the former crew members. But give this like a 18 out of 10, because it gives you even illustration of the crew members. There's very little writing. It's mostly illustration from older copies. If you're looking them in decent condition, I highly recommend this book. This is the Volume 2, Issue number 3 variety books from 2016. I highly recommend it. Until then, Nicholas Madovich with Strasburg 1991 Productions. And this is for Literary Gladiators for another book haul. I would definitely recommend this book. It gives you pure illustration, very little writing, very little wording. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I definitely recommend this book to anybody who has a hunch for railroads. So, until then, Nicholas Madovich speaking, signing off.